Hello and welcome back to my craft room. Now, if you were here for the live last weekend, you will have seen that I had started to work on untangling this pile, this tangled nest of vintage embroidery threads. I'm going to put a picture here. This was part of a beautiful collection of vintage threads that I bought, and the bag, the lady that I bought it from through eBay, said I've put in, there was a whole load of tangled threads at the bottom of the box. I've put them in for you as well in case you can make use of them all. I can definitely make use of them, and there's something very satisfying, something I really enjoy about untangling a whole nest of threads. Something I have to do at the end of every slow stitch project, to be fair, but these have been tangled probably since the 1920s, so it was quite a task. Dawn in the live chat during the stream actually said, no, I'll garbage that. Whereupon several of us probably threw our hands up in horror at the idea. And CCQ actually went, send some to me, I'll help you. If she lived around the corner, she'd have popped round and helped me because she loves it as much as I do. Anyway, stop waffle. I have come back now. It took me 3 evenings, long evenings, into the wee small hours, to untangle the whole pile to see what I could retrieve from it. I found some hidden treasures inside the nest. Nothing alive. And I've got a whole load of usable threads, and I'm all ready to start a project using those threads that I've retrieved and the lovely box of threads. So I'm going to show that again in case you missed it when I showed before. I've got some vintage fabrics as well, and some lace and linens and things. I'm going to put them all together, and I'm ready to start a project I've had in mind for ages, which is to follow along with Create and Craft with Christine's Dictionary of Stitches that she was doing. She's not long stopped doing it. She was doing videos every day, just little short videos every single day on a live premiere with and working through the whole alphabet. And I think she said there were 175 videos altogether. So I want to work through and do all of those stitches and make a lovely little book using these vintage threads and whatever vintage supplies I've got. I just think it would be a lovely way to use them. Let me take you to my desk and show you how I got on with these threads. Oh, thrilled to bits I am. Can you tell? Okay, this is all I've got left. This little bit, it's one of my little newspaper baskets made out of newspaper. I'm going to come back and show you how to make those at some point this year. I had this one for years. They're so durable. Not even got a finish on it or anything. Stop sidetracking yourself. Okay, so these are all that I have left, and it's amazing. As I went through, my pile of usable sorted out threads grew, but my tangled pile didn't seem to get any smaller. In fact, it got bigger for a while, and I've still got this much, which is not going to be usable for sewing with. Mostly they're very short, but there are some like this one. It's quite a long piece, but it just wasn't, it was too much to untangle, and the thread was starting to break. Most of the threads seem to be still very they're not like breaking easily or anything, so they're perfectly usable. And of course, this is the most delicious pile of orts I've ever had because they're all silk. It feels incredible. The only bits in there that I came across that weren't silk, there were a couple of bits of like a fine cotton thread, and there was some which was labelled wood pulp yarn. A wood pulp. Can't remember, we'll come across it in a minute. They're for my orts, and I'll keep them. I've now got to divide my orts into two, so these are going to be special orts. This is for in a minute. Here are all the threads I retrieved out of that nest. That messy old nest. Do this very carefully. And what I did was kind of make them all into these little skeins, and then as I start using each one, because I don't want to end up with the same predicament again, as I start using it, I will wind it onto a bobbin. I don't want to use, I've got a whole load of those plastic bobbins. I don't really want to use those. I think I might dig out some of my old clothes pegs, my dolly pegs, and wind them onto those instead. Really don't want to start putting plastic in here. There are some absolutely beautiful threads in all sorts of different, here are some of the cotton ones, and I'm not sure, that one still feels like silk, but it's a different texture, but these feel like cotton. A lot of the threads were already in a length kind of about that, kind of a good stitching length. So whether that is how they came or that's what the stitcher had done when she started to use them. And some of them I ended up with oddments, so I just wound them all together into one skein. Then that's not variegated, that's several lengths of different colours. They were very staticky. This one was a mare to to sort out, but worth it. What a glorious blue that is. Look at all the different textures, different texture again on this. This one is so soft. I'm being so tentative with it because I don't want to end up tangling them up again. You can see how easily they could unravel again. Beautiful, beautiful colours. Whole load of different shades of yellow through kind of golden colours, greens, lovely apricots and peach colours and warm kind of oranges, coppers. There's a few, I feel like there are favourite colours that she had a lot of. There's some lovely greens, beautiful blues. A lot of it, I think, you know, they just make me think of flowers and gardens and things. I just think I'd love to see some of the embroideries that she made with these. So this was Miss Cheatham's sewing thread collection. I'll show you the box in a minute that it came in. And as I say, this was just the tangled mass that the lady who was selling them found at the bottom of the box. See, that one's come unravelled there. I was almost sorry when I came to the end of the pile. So that was all of the ones that I did on skeins. Then there's a whole load. Let's push them carefully to one side. There's all of these. There's a thicker cotton one there. So there were some. Actually, it's more of the cottons than I thought. Some that went easier into little bundles like this. This stuff, there's quite a lot of this. Oops. Could be split off into several strands and used. I'm trying to get it to, here we go, separately, but I don't know if any of it is going to break on me. It's going to be this one, because as I was untangling them, I just felt like, see, if I pull on that really hard, eventually it went, but that took quite a lot of pressure. But I do think if I don't want to use it separately, split into strands like that, I could just leave it like this. If I'm not sure of it, you know, I could leave it like this and use it and couch it down. It would be so beautiful like that. And there's lots of these lovely wine reds in that stuff. This, where has it gone? This is an example of the wood pulp stuff. So this is the only one that wasn't either cotton or silk, was this wood pulp. So there's no synthetic fibres in here at all. This is a strange feeling stuff. It's yeah, and it holds its crinkleness. I'm not quite sure what I'll do with it. It looks like it could be split. I think I'm probably more likely to couch it down, but if I used a big needle, it would be really interesting texture. It's got a lovely sheen to it. But I really don't like these little plastic bobbins, so I'm not sure what I'll do about that. But yeah, lots of different colours of the wood pulp stuff. It was probably a cheaper alternative to silk, I guess, at the time. There were some very fine ones. See, that is that same stuff that I showed you just now. I said I could couch down. The strands are very fine, and you know, I could just split it like, you know, like a stranded cotton that we have now, and use 2 strands, or how many strands altogether? One, I think it's 12. It's at least 10, if not 12. Yeah. So a lot of beautiful and very usable threads there. Now I've got them all untangled, I probably need to sort them and get them into a more, because they could easily unravel again like this. I do need to wind them onto whatever I'm going to use as bobbins. I think clothes pegs would be quite cute, wouldn't it? I've got a whole lot of wooden spoons as well that Tom gave me that he couldn't use, so I could wind them all onto those as well. I did that with some of my Steph Francis threads. There we go. So that's just what would have been waste threads. I'll show you the other threads in a minute, but I just wanted to show you, these are all the things I came across in the middle of that big tangled pile. So this was a round thing that some of the thread was wound onto. Unfortunately, I couldn't leave it on this because some of it was so tangled up and kind of matted. So I had to take it off, and it kind of fell apart as I took it off. But I still love it. I've got to find something to do with it. I'm going to somehow incorporate it into the little book that I'm making. I loved finding this little pin with, now that would have been, so that's obviously it's old money, old English money. There we go. And I think we would have pronounced that as 1 and 3 halfpenny. So 1 shilling, 3 pence, 1 shilling and 3.5 old pennies. 1 and 3 halfpenny. So I don't know what that was pinned onto. There's this tiny piece of lace. It looks like crocheted lace. I think it is. I think it's crocheted lace. So that will be brought in as well. There we go. How lovely is that? I think it's been worked up that way, maybe. And a tiny bit of tatting. Look at this beautiful tatting. And it's funny, when I found my old tatting shuttle again, there was a little piece like this that I'd started on it. We're all the same. Whatever century, whatever decade we're born in. There we go. Look at that beautiful work. She's doing better than me at getting those loops even. I also found one of her needles. Now it's too, I don't think I'll be able to use it, but it definitely it's going to be actually stitched into the book, I think is my plan. And it's quite like the needles I favour using. I like short needle. I like chenille needles. They're quite short. They've got a big eye, but they've got a sharp point. And this one's got more of a blunt point, but it might have had a sharp point. It's quite thick. It would have been a really useful little needle, and it got lost in amongst her pile of tangled threads. Tut tut, Muriel. I found a couple of little snippets of, I can go in the aughts, a couple of little snippets of chenille, which I kept separately. I'm not going to try actually stitching with this, it will be couched down. So and again, it feels like silk, so I think it's a silk chenille. How beautiful. These things would have been, you know, expensive. You wouldn't have wasted things like we do these days. So I'm going to keep that separate. I'm going to put that over there in a minute. I found this little piece of tape. Again, I can easily somehow work this into, maybe I'll use this as the tie for my book, because it's long enough. Just a piece of, I guess that's cotton tape. I don't know, it has a synthetic feel to it, I'm not sure. But anyway, it's clearly vintage. So yeah, let's put that in there as well. And then I found these. So this would have been the stuff, you can see it's catching the light there. Is it, you can see where the print is catching the light? I think this would have been the stuff that you put the face down and use an iron and transfer it onto your fabric. So I think I'm going to actually see if I can do that bit, and then I'll somehow preserve this piece in the book as well. And the same with this butterfly, although I can't see any shine on it anymore. I don't know if maybe it's all been used up. You can see it, you can see a little bit of the shine of the transfer there. So I might see if I can manage to get one more transfer out of it. But if not, I'll make a little pocket in the book or something, so I'll find some way of preserving this. It's just giving me goose pimples just thinking about it. Now this, obviously it's some kind of a plastic, but it's a plastic from a long time ago. Because we don't, I mean, the documentation that I found in amongst the threads went back to the late 1800s. And I looked up all about, I'll link to the original video that I did about Miss Cheetham. I went on Ancestry and stuff and looked up her history. It's fascinating. I love doing that. But yeah, just because she started collecting these things up in the early 1900s doesn't mean that somebody wasn't still, including her. She didn't die until the late 60s. I can't remember now. 70s. So, you know, she would have carried on using her threads. during that time, I'm sure. So this was, this obviously this is plastic, but it's an early plastic, and I don't mind using this. I don't mind using this to put my threads on. If there were more of these in, I would definitely be using them. But yeah, so that one will get used. And then, there's a couple of little bits here. I just even saved these. They're just little bits of it. It's probably brown paper bags that they're falling apart. They had thread wound around them. She'd probably just folded a little piece up just to wind her, like I was just saying, I'll find some pegs or something to wind my threads onto. She'd just use whatever she had around her. Somehow I want to keep that, even if I just couch it down somewhere. I've got to do something with it. Tell me if I'm being ridiculous. I'm sure there will be others of you out there who would be the same about all of this as I am. There's another little bit of that. Now these, believe it or not, I was astonished that there were so many. Amongst that nest of threads that I just showed you the picture of were all of these little labels from that's one of my plastic bobbins. Little labels from the skeins of thread. So a lot of them were cut into lengths, like stitching lengths. There'd be a whole bundle of them, and one of these was wrapped around the middle and glued down. And I suppose she just pulled a length out as she wanted it, and then as you pull more lengths out, of course they start to fall apart, then they get all tangled, and that's the point. Before that you should be putting them onto bobbins or whatever. I just love these. I saved every single one. These, I can remember to find one now, like little bits like that. That's from this, where this all kind of fell apart. I'm going to see if I can somehow reconstruct this and stick it in my book. I'm probably being weird. I don't care. 63 years old nearly. I've earned the right to be weird. So yes, there's all sorts of different ones. So they were mostly Briggs threads. There are some other ones. So there was that one. It's different. But they're mostly Briggs, and a lot of them say court or county. They've all got shade numbers on. They all talk about boiling dyes, so boiling dye, crewel silk, embroidery silk, and I just love all of these. So what I'm thinking at the moment, give me a shout in the comments if you've got better ideas, but what I'm thinking I'm going to do is glue these down, just use a glue stick onto another piece of paper to preserve them. I could then scan them on my printer and even print them onto fabric, print it out onto fabric. Jackie, Fabulous Jackson on Discord, she does a lot of that. She's got this special fabric you can put through your printer, but you can also there are different ways of printing straight onto normal fabric. Iron freezer paper onto the back, for example. I have done a video about that, about different ways of doing image transfers. But yeah, you can iron freezer paper onto the back of any fabric, really. I've done it with calico very successfully. Cut it to A4 to go in your printer, and you can print anything on it. So I'm thinking, wouldn't that make a lovely fabric with all of those just patchworked on? What do you think? Has anybody got any other ideas? Because the only thing is, once I stick it down, the other side isn't going to show. Some of them will open out, and if they will, then I will do that. This silk has been boiled in a soap lather after being dyed. I love it. I love these. I love these. And it's just a shame not to do something with them, I think. So I've kept all them in one of my granny's dishes. Also vintage. And I have to do something with them. So now I'm going to show you the box of threads. I've started collecting. I've got this little fold out thing, and I've started throwing bits into it as and when I find them. So these will go in there now, or I might put them in the thread box in a minute. I've got these lovely vintage buttons. These came from eBay as well. Look at these. the tiniest linen buttons I've ever seen. Oops. So yeah, I definitely will put some of them. I need something nicer than this to keep them in. That's what they came in, so at the moment they can stay in there and I'll find something nicer. This is a lovely little pin cushion that Deb sent me. Deb, who hates pearly buttons. Hope Deb's okay. I haven't heard from her for a while. You okay, Deb? She hates pearly buttons, but she conquered her fear to make this for me. She's got a real phobia, genuine phobia about them. That feels really silky and nice. I think I'm going to leave, somehow that feels like it's okay for them to be in there. These aren't vintage scissors, but they look it. I'm going to take the plastic bobbins out because we don't want them. I'm going to leave a modern needle threader in because worth its weight in gold. These came in a little vintage sewing box I bought at some point. I mean, those don't look like vintage needles. That's just how it came to me. But I love the little needle case. Maybe what I'll do is take these more modern looking ones out. Miss Cheatham's needle in there instead. This also came in that vintage sewing kit. It's well manky looking, but you know, I just love it. And maybe I can somehow just stitch bits of it in there or something, or just tuck it in somewhere. These are some of the vintage fabrics that I've got to use. This is like a silk. These came from Love Me Blue, I believe. A pack I got from there. This one. Kind of feeling like somehow I like that. This would make a nice spine coordinating with that, maybe. That's too shiny for this. Like this. That would be perfect for a bit of thread painting, wouldn't it? That's another thing that Christine does a lot of. I might keep that with it because I fancy trying a bit of thread painting along with this project. Okay, I've cut myself down a little bit. I like this colour palette that seems to be happening. It even fits with the with these labels. Like, that's a nice little colour palette, isn't it? Now I've got a little piece of lace I mustn't forget to use. I've put it with my swap squares, which Paula, lovely Paula Lister sent me, and it was made by the, was it great grandmother or great grandmother? Grandmother, I think, of a dear friend of hers, who gave her permission to send me a little piece. And yeah, just to have that piece of lace in my hand and know it's come from the person whose granny made it, and she lived over in this country. Paula's in New Zealand and his friend is in New Zealand, but the lady that made the lace, who is obviously no longer with us, was over here and made it when she was a young girl living over here. So just lovely to have that. And I've looked up some stuff about her on Ancestry too. So, and then I've got some lovely pieces of lace. Now these beauties were sent to me by Annie Cron. See the butterflies on it. See how these, this colour palette is coming together, isn't it? Look at these beautiful pieces. I have got quite a lot of this kind of colour lace as well. I've got these threads. Now that one can go somewhere else because that is not. That looks a bit like the one I left in there, the red one, doesn't it? You can see it used to be pink, but it's faded away. So I say it feels like silk, and it does say 100% silk. Say what's SEIDE? Don't know what that is. Gutermann 100% silk. So that definitely makes the cut. So maybe my threads will stay in there. Those kind of threads. I might take this out because this is actually a modern one. Maybe I can do this entirely with vintage threads. There we go. There's another beautiful piece. Oh, I know it's awful, but I can't remember where that came from now. Somebody sent me that and you recognise it, shout up in the comments. Or was that a piece in a pack I actually bought? But that kind of fits, and it would be nice to do some of the stitching on. This piece is actually not vintage as such, but it is recycled. It's very, very fine, maybe too fine. It's from one of the bazaar packs. I kind of feel like the colour goes, and it is cotton. I'm going to leave it in there for now, and then all I need to find really is some plain old cotton or something just for the plain stitching onto. I don't really want to use sort of modern calico, although I've got some. So like a worn old pillowcase, that kind of thing would do. So I'm going to I'll have a dig around for that. I don't need that right now. So that is all of my fabrics. I think there's a really nice mixture of beautiful fabrics and linens and lace, and I've got that little piece of lace from Paula to dig out in a moment. I'm going to see if I can get this big box. This is the box that the vintage threads came in, and it would have been the box that was in the shop on the counter, or that the shopkeeper would have brought out for someone to choose their threads from. One of the things I loved was that it came with these pieces of paperwork in, which helped to date it and to identify the person that the box belonged to. I won't go on about that now because it is in the video that I did before. That's one of why I love that there's more of her needles. She definitely likes the same kind of needles that I do. Just stuck into the back of a letter there, which again helped to identify her. So and I love this box. I love that it can be used. It's got these little, let's pull you up a bit now. It's got these little tabs either side to pull the tray up with, and there's another layer underneath. Look how vibrant the colours still are. Look at this still. This needs a bit of sorting out. It's not as bad as the nest of threads, but it needs sorting out. But you can see this is what I was talking about just now. So they either came like this, in a like a skein, but just knotted, not twisted, just knotted, loop, wound around and knotted like that, and then the label put through. Look at the colours in that one, how beautiful. Art colours for high class needlework. Ooh, don't you love? Eastern dyes, shaded bronze. Do you think they called it shaded when we say variegated? There's more chenille there, which is beautiful. This one, it's still got looped around there, but it's been plaited together. Helped to keep it in order, I guess. Whether it came like that or it's the person who owned the threads that did that. And then these type ones, I'm trying to find an example now. Maybe they will be in the underneath layer. As I say, some of them came in these kind of stitchable lengths, clipped together with the little labels. This one's more of just a knotted bundle again. It's got that knot in the middle to help keep it in order, but yeah, I kind of need to go through these as well, but that's okay. I'll enjoy that. I need to decide what I'm going to put them on for bobbins. And this is some of that stuff that I showed you that I said I might just couch it down if I can't sort of properly sew with it, but this is what it would have come like. The bundle wrapped around, so what's it called? Philocell boiling dye, shade number. So I think, I probably would try to keep some of them like this. But having said that, there's no point in me just keeping it, not using it. Then what will happen to it when I pop my clogs? It will get shoved in an attic the same as it was before it came to me. So I kind of feel like I want to use them. Miss Cheatham's family out in America, so I'm having tetanus, have given me their blessing to actually use the threads, and they think that's what Miss Cheatham would have wanted. Waste not, want not would have been her take on it. See, this is quite difficult to work with when it gets all tangly like this. I will untangle it if I can, but if I can't, it will be still really nice to bundle up together and couch down. so none of this will get wasted. As I say, if it's only the most luxurious orts ever, then that's fine with me. Let's have a look at the underneath layer. I'm not going to go through all of it. Look at it, so much of this lovely wine red. Because I went through it all in that original video. Look at all the shades of green. This is the wood pulp stuff. This thread is made from a vegetable fibre. Do not rub when washing. Lighter than silk. Yeah, these need quite a fair bit of untangling as well, I think. They're not in the mess that the other lot was, but they're still pretty bad. Maybe it wasn't cut into lengths. Maybe it was just the ones that she'd started working with that were cut into lengths, and that's why they were in that tangled mess. That could be the case. Maybe they come in a loop, and when you start working with them, you would clip them there, so they're automatically the right kind of length. Maybe that's what people did. Beautiful colours. Look at this one all twisted together. Yeah, I'm not finding any that are cut into the length, so I'm thinking that probably is the case. It's lovely. It's like, it reminds me of faded jeans, that one. That's more cotton. It's a little tiny bundle. So yeah, I'm not going to spend any more time going through those now. You can see how delicious they are. And what I would like is to make this box something that I will keep. I might do a couple of small mends on it, but I don't want to really change it in any way. And it'll be a nice place to keep my little vintage treasures and things. There's my little collection of goodies all ready to go. I've still got to dig out my base cotton that I'm going to use, whatever I use for my base fabric. I might decide to put a little batting between some of the pages. I haven't decided yet. And I need to remember that little piece of lace from Paula, and undoubtedly there will be other bits and pieces that go in along the way, but that's the gist of it. So yeah, I can't wait to go. I've been promising myself I'm going to do this for ages, so, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to following along with Christine's videos and learning all of those new stitches. You wouldn't believe, like, just the different variations on a blanket stitch that you can do. And you know, and I don't know about you, but I'm definitely guilty of having half a dozen favourite stitches that I do nearly all the time, and it would be nice to add to my repertoire as well. I just think this is going to make a lovely little thing to keep. I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. I've got lots of other projects on the go as well, but you know, you can never have too many hobbies and too many projects, can you? Let me know if you can think of any other ideas for what I can do with these sweet little little bands, little labels, whatever you want to call them. I will come back and show some of my process and show you how it's shaping up as I go along. And maybe I'll come back and show you how I put the book together. But the main thing of it is going to be following along with Christine's tutorials. So I'll mostly probably share photos in the Discord and the Facebook group, and I'll come back to the odd video showing you how I'm getting on. That's it from me for today. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again really soon.